And welcome to it, everyone. Thanks for being with us here On Deck. And today we're going back to 1994, an interesting time in baseball. It was really a few days before the infamous strike of 94 and a part of the 95 season. Orioles and Brewers at Milwaukee County Stadium. And Ben McDonald would toe the rubber on this night for the Baltimore Orioles. And he spun one of the great performances of his career in Baltimore. Now, what's interesting about this for Big Ben, a few things. One is, Ben had a really good career as an Oriole, hard to match the expectations of being the first overall pick in 1989, being rushed to the big leagues, dealing with all kinds of injuries and ailments. But, boy, what a gamer Ben was. But on this day, he goes 9 complete, allows just 1 hit, no earned runs, and strikes out 9 Milwaukee Brewers. The Orioles also, not knowing there wouldn't be a finished 1994 season, they're playing their best baseball of the year. And the Orioles had finished 1994 in serious contention to make it to the postseason for the first time since they won the World Series in 1983. It was obviously not to be, but this Orioles ball club ended that 1994 season on August 12th, also behind a great Ben McDonald performance. They were 63-49 and surging behind the pitching of Mussina and McDonald. But on this night, Milwaukee, Baltimore would win the game 4-0. Chris Hoyles not only caught that complete game shutout, he also hit number 19 on the season. It was a 2-run home run. Also on this day, something you don't see every day, a Cal Ripken triple. So the Orioles got it going just enough offensively, but it was all about Ben McDonald, who spun one of his best games ever. And I asked Ben about that night in Milwaukee.
I remember that season started off really good for me. I think I won my first 7, and I hit a little lull in the middle. I didn't pitch so good, but then, like I typically did throughout my career, I got stronger, and August and September were good months to me at the big league level. And so I remember that night I was pitching well, and Milwaukee was playing pretty well too, and went in there, and just one of those nights where, I had a little bit of luck on my side. They lined out, hit some balls right to field, but I had really good stuff, and we ended up throwing a one-hit shutout. I think Dave Nelson got the only hit off of me. I think like it was a single or a double or something like that. But, I remember that night. And I remember, like you said, I think Mussina had 16 wins. I had 14 wins. We both, probably had another, 8 or 10 starts left, a chance to win 20, when it all happened. And like you said, there was no wild card back then. And so we were battling the Yankees and felt like we had a real shot and just was heating up. And we're going to make the playoffs for the first time, in a while. And so then the strike happened, and, we kept home and we kept working out thinking, oh, it's going to happen. Let's get ready. Let's stay ready. Let's stay ready. And it just never happened. It was Heartbreak Hotel after that,
Now, Ben had a couple of really good outings. I mean, a couple of just upper-tier dominant performances as an Oriole pitcher. And I asked him, was this his best ever in his career?
Anytime you can throw a complete game, especially a one-hitter, those don't come along very often. I remember that night having really good stuff, and feeling pretty good. And obviously with 146 pitches, I was feeling pretty good for them to leave me in, And so I remember having a really good breaking ball that night and a fastball that was good as well. And, Milwaukee always had a good team, and I'd lost the year before there 2-0 and threw a complete game and lost. So I remember going back in and wanting to do well. And, the boys went out and scored some runs, and if I'm not mistaken, Chris Hoyles hit a home run, and we ended up winning the ball game 4-0. So anytime you throw a complete game or one hitter, it always stands out in your career.
By the way, you can hear the entire interview with Ben McDonald, a part of Orioles Magic, the podcast, available wherever podcasts are downloaded, and we get into a lot of things. Of course, Ben has seen these Orioles teams currently very closely as both a coach and a broadcaster. Plus, Ben follows college baseball extremely closely, so he's very familiar with this upcoming draft and has a lot of insight into all the talent that could be coming to Baltimore. We get into all of it, and we talk a lot about the major leagues, the minor leagues, college baseball with Ben McDonald. But one thing that stands out, one thing that's really changed in baseball over time, it's the words pitch count. It wasn't talked about quite as much in those days, but Ben McDonald on this night in Milwaukee threw 146 pitches in a regular season game. You just don't see that anymore. And I asked Ben about that.
When you're 22, 25, you think you're 10 foot tall and bulletproof, right? You think you're going to last forever. You think you're going to play forever. And even when I was in my younger days, I think the competitor in me always watched Mike Mussina, and Moose would come off the field, and Moose would look down at Johnny Oates and Dick Bosman and just kind of go like this, I'm done. And he'd walk to the clubhouse. And I'd go, what's wrong with that dude, man? How can you take yourself out of a 2-2 ball game? I want to win the game, but Moose was a lot smarter than I was, come to find out, and I would stay in the game. Like, I don't know, the competitor in me, and even Cal Ripken came to me one time and was like, dude, you're going to kill yourself. You've got to start taking yourself. I was like, take yourself out of the game? I don't even know what that means. Like, that don't even compute in my brain. Like, I might get knocked out of the game, but I ain't taking myself out of the game. I was like, I don't even know what that – like, I can't even relate to that. But I wasn't the smartest guy in the world. I just love to compete. I wanted to take the ball and go out and compete. And, look, it started in high school. Like you mentioned, I threw all 13 innings of a state semifinal game, threw 221 pitches, came back the next day and threw the last 4 innings and closed. In college, I had 5 saves. I threw 9 on Friday, come back and close on Saturday. Yeah, it probably led to my breakdown. But when the coach looks at you and it's a ball game out there and you go, hey, can you give me an inning? Damn right, coach, I can give you an inning. Just give me the ball. And that's just – I don't know. That's just how I was. And so I think it's good in some ways. It was bad in others, if I could. But if people always ask me, if you go back and do it again, would you do it differently? And I go, I don't know if I'd do it any differently. I just love to compete at the end of the day. I just wanted to go play. And I always thought I'd play 15. I always felt like I had the body and the stuff and the makeup to play 15 years in the big leagues. My arm finally gave up on me and the 3 surgeries, and I ended up playing only 9 years. But that's part of it. It's just the way it is.
Well, you just heard from Big Ben McDonald on that effort on August 5th, 1994. And it was a part of our conversation with Ben McDonald on Orioles Magic, the podcast. And my co-host for that show, Jeff Oriole, joins me right now. And Jeff, one thing about Ben McDonald, his passion for the game, his knowledge of the game at each level, high school, college, minor league, major league, is really extraordinary. And also, he's just an authentic, genuine guy. What you hear or see on television or the radio or on this podcast or what we are doing now is what you get. That's the real Ben McDonald.
And he's incredibly sharp because, like you said, he has a lot of experience in the high school game. And then the college game he's been covering for years with ESPN. He does a lot of SEC games. He's done the College World Series. And then his time spent with the Orioles, and then also his time spent as a broadcaster for MASN and for the Orioles radio network. He not only understands the pitching aspect of it and some of the recruiting stuff as far as the college goes and the draft stuff, which we get into a lot on the podcast, but he also understands the analytics too. And I think is a great blend of somebody who understands the new school way that baseball is operating, but is from the old school. So that mix, I think, really makes him a fun listen.
Yeah, we get into everything, by the way, on Orioles Magic, the podcast. You can download it anywhere you download your podcast or at Orioles.com/podcast. We also get into something that he's extremely knowledgeable about, which is the draft, being someone who calls a lot of college baseball and SEC baseball. And he likes the Orioles options at 2 overall, Jeff.
I think he's sort of along the same lines as the rest of us, which is probably Austin Martin as the number 2 pick. And that would probably assume that Spencer Torkelson is off the board. But he's seen Martin, he's seen Torkelson. He had a great perspective on Asa Lacy, talking about Lacy's command and how maybe that's the one thing holding him back. Emerson Hancock with the University of Georgia, another SEC pitcher that he has seen. We don't really go much into the high school picks just because we know that the very top of the draft is pretty much going to come down to Torkelson, Lacy, and Martin. But his in-depth look at Martin, I think, was great. And one of the things that we discussed, which I was interested to hear about, was how do you think his skill set would translate to the outfield? Because a lot of people think that Martin could very well be a center fielder at some point.
And Jeff, finally, you have Turbo Trivia tomorrow. Tell us about that.
Orioles Turbo Trivia has become one of my favorite things to do in quarantine. And it's maybe, outside of being on this show occasionally and doing our podcast, the highlight of my week, because part of me always wanted to be a game show host, becoming either Pat Sajak or Alex Trebek. And Orioles Turbo Trivia gives me the opportunity to do that. It's presented by Pepsi Zero Sugar, and we do 9 different questions or innings as they're called. And fans can play on the MLB Ballpark app. There's an opportunity to win great prizes. We have gift cards that we give away from 3 different local businesses. So not only can you play and stay in touch with the Orioles, but you can also win some cards to some of these great businesses who are struggling right now as this whole thing is going on. So everybody should play with me on Fridays. We start at 1:05. You can also watch it on Facebook, and then Melanie Newman hosts on Tuesdays. So 2 chances to play trivia, to get some gift cards, to have some fun, and to allow me to fulfill a selfish dream.
You're good at everything, Jeff. Singing, broadcasting, podcasting, trivia games. Jeff Arnold, the Wonderkin. We appreciate Jeff. Thank you so much.
All right, brother. We'll talk to you soon.
A new blog is available on Orioles.com called Birdland Insider. Insider content will include current and past Orioles magazine articles, photo essays curated by the team photographers, Q&As with players, prospect spotlights, and more. For more updates, visit Orioles.com/Birdland Insider or follow on Twitter at Birdland Insider. Well, it's about that time. We're going to Milwaukee County Stadium. Yes, not Miller Park. Milwaukee County Stadium, August 5th, 1994. Orioles and Brewers. Ben McDonald on the bump for Baltimore. And boy, did he dominate on this Friday night. Enjoyed, everyone, and thanks for being with us here on Deck.